If you're a fan of action RPG games such as Diablo, Path of Exile, or Torchlight, then chances are you'll probably like Grim Dawn too. Grim Dawn is a top-down action RPG developed by Crate Entertainment, the same team who developed Titan Quest. Those of you who've played Titan Quest know that it's a very good game, and Grim Dawn feels very similar to it, as it borrows a lot of game mechanics, but it also brings many new unique features to the table, making it one of the better action RPG titles in recent years. In this video, I'll be talking about the class system, the game world, character customization, crafting, and many other features of the game, so if you're interested in that, stick around. Alright, so let's start off with the class system. When you begin a new game, you start with a classless character. When you hit level 2, you're able to choose from one of the 6 base classes. Each one offers a unique playstyle, so choose the one that looks cool to you, or if you want to understand what the classes are capable of, you have to be prepared to do a lot of reading, since the spell descriptions are quite long. The way you get spells is the following. Each time you level up, you get to spend 3 points on either the class bar or the spells. To unlock the spells, you have to reach a certain threshold on your class bar, as the first tier requires 1 point, then it's 5, 10, you get the idea. Now this system becomes really interesting when you hit level 10, because then you get the option to choose a second class in addition to your first choice. The 6 base classes make up for 15 possible combinations of unique classes, so you can finally create the weird character you always wanted. With the dual classing, you can be a heavy armor sorcerer, a tank assassin, or even a fucking pistol wielding summoner. The level cap of the game is 85, so that gives you 252 points to spend wherever you like in the class trees, giving you an insane variety of possible builds. I have also included a link to this very neat skill calculator in the description, so you can get a good overview of the class trees and combinations. In case you were wondering, you can also reset your skills at any time from the appropriate NPC, but bear in mind you cannot reset the points you invested in your class bar. In addition to dual classing, you get this confusing looking thing to further customize your character. This is called the devotion system. Here you can spend devotion points, which you find throughout the game, to complete constellations. Each point of a constellation gives you a passive boost to your character, and finishing certain constellations will give you a celestial power, which you can use to enhance your primary skills with unique passive effects. When you complete a constellation, you also gain affinity points, which give you access to more powerful constellations. The further out on the devotion tree you go, the more affinity requirements there are. This creates for a situation where you have to think and plan ahead about what constellations you ultimately want, since there are a total of 50 devotion points available in the game. Constellations offer a big variety of bonuses, so no matter what class combo you have chosen, the devotion system will always supplement your build with adequate perks. The downside of this system, in my opinion, is that it's kinda clunky and confusing in the beginning. There is no categorization of the bonuses that you get from constellations, and they are all scattered around in a non-specific order. Combine that with the fact that each one has a different affinity requirement and gives a different amount of affinity points, and you're soon gonna get overwhelmed. To navigate across the tree, you can use the pictures and common sense, like you would expect the torch to give you bonus fire damage, but what bonus does the fox give? My advice is to take your sweet time to read through all the constellations. Once you've done that, everything will make sense and you will realize just how awesome this system really is. You can also use the skill calculator I mentioned for the devotion tree. And don't worry, you can respec your devotion points. The next thing I want to talk about is the game world. The first thing to note is that the world of Grim Dawn is not procedurally generated. That means that every single part of it has been handcrafted by a team of designers. The game features a large variety of environments, and the general atmosphere is very dark and grim. The world is pretty huge, as you can see on the world map. For example, this part here is the first of the 4 acts. On my first playthrough, it took me about 10 hours to fully explore it. Note that there are many dungeons which are not shown on the map, and some of them are pretty expansive, having multiple levels. The game rewards you for exploration, as there are many secrets scattered across the world, giving you fat loot, or even access to secret locations with their own secret quests and bosses, so keep an eye out for crumbling walls or hidden paths uncharted on the map. With the game having a pre-designed world, however, comes the downside that after a few playthroughs, everything will start feeling the same. You will go through the same dungeons, the same landscapes, and the same secrets. You don't have that feel of a fresh run that procedurally generated games like Diablo give you. Whether or not you find this a problem is up to you. Personally, I find the world big enough to keep me entertained, with the exception of the few starting zones, which I played so many times that they are hardly exciting anymore. Grim Dawn also features a crafting system, which is nothing out of the ordinary. You collect materials from monsters, and you craft shit. That's pretty much it. You can get better blueprints from drops, or by raising your reputation with different factions. Speaking of factions, you'll encounter many of them through the game. Each one has its own story and they can be either friendly or hostile towards the player. Farming friendly reputations will unlock items for purchase from the respective quartermaster, while farming hostile reputations will unlock conditional enemy spawns, and ultimately the nemesis spawn of that faction, which is a badass boss. There are many quests to be completed in Grim Dawn, from the storyline to all the side quests and repeatable bounties. Each quest tells a different story and the dialogues are very nicely scripted, so I recommend you read them. Quests require you to make choices, which have a lasting impact on the world, so be careful with your decisions, there's no going back. This really adds up to the immersion aspect of the game in my opinion, as you are already thrown in the dark, apocalyptic world of Grim Dawn. Completing quests, however, does not grant a lot of experience, as the leveling process is relatively slow compared to other similar games. In fact, leveling in Grim Dawn is really slow from what I've seen. It could take you anywhere from 60 to 100 hours to get a character to max level. There are 3 difficulty levels, much like in Diablo 2, and the game becomes progressively harder, with the last difficulty being a real pain in the ass. That being said, leveling feels really satisfying as gear acquisition is very balanced and you constantly become better at destroying hordes of enemies and turning them into colorful paste. One last thing I want to showcase in this review is a cool feature which I haven't seen in another RPG. When you slay monsters, they sometimes drop components which can be both crafting materials and enchants for your gear. When used on your gear, they give you both stats and unique active skills otherwise unobtainable, like this Lightning Nova for example. These skills can be used regardless of your class and can benefit from your skill tree and devotion tree. There are a total of 42 additional active skills that you can get from components, and that's just the final touch of the incredibly deep character building system. To conclude this video, I will make a few points to help you decide whether or not to buy this game. As an RPG, Grim Dawn will offer you a fluid and responsive combat system combined with limitless character building possibilities in a dark and fucked up world. The only real downside I can think of is that unlike Diablo 3 for instance, Grim Dawn lacks a final polish like the stiff animations, sound, and not so amazing graphics for 2016. But since it was developed by a very small team, who gives a shit? For $25 on Steam, I think Grim Dawn is an amazing deal, and you will get hundreds of hours of content for your money. So if I were you, I'd run to the store. So that's it for this review. I hope I covered everything you needed to know. Comment, like, and subscribe if you feel like it, and I'll see you in the next one.